after we took guardianship of our granddaughters, I encouraged them to join the water ski team. Initially, they resisted, but an hour into the first practice, they were hooked. The team became the family they needed when theirs was broken. There are many acts in the show. The younger one competes in the strap act. It's called strap because there's a strap around the bass skier's waist that's connected to the tow rope. Notice how his hands are free to lift his partner into her choreographed routine. If he falls into the water, he risks dragging. So there's a pin around the boat, and that person's job is to pull the pin or release him so he can swim to safety. Otherwise, he risks severe injury. There was a time when I had to pin or release my son, Ryan. I had to let him go so he could save himself. I couldn't swim for him, and I couldn't jump in after him because I'd risk drowning. And I was taking care of his daughters. We were at a ski show event, sitting up in the bleachers one July evening, and Ryan had just returned from a 30-day rehab, and I was filled with hope until he said something, and I don't even remember what it was, but intuitively I knew, no, he's still in the throes of addiction. And I thought, he'll never be what I imagined he would be. I was grieving for the loss of dreams I had for him. Millions of people are grieving like this today. We have an epidemic in the United States. When we look at the substance use disorder-related deaths and the alcohol-related deaths, we're losing more than 500 people. And if right now, there are more than 20 million people ensnared in a substance use disorder. And according to the American Medical Association in May of 2022, this epidemic is only worsening. And even if addiction hasn't plagued your family, it's still costing you and your community over $3.73 trillion. When I looked at these stats, I was like, I've got to do something. But I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even help my own son. It felt like I was being dragged like that bass skier who had fallen in the water because I couldn't breathe. So I did what I could, and I started reading about addiction and realized how little I knew. The experts disagreed. One would say, just let him hit rock bottom. And I thought, what's that, death? And then others said, love him with healthy boundaries. Don't try to fix him, just walk alongside him. And I liked that. And what I learned confirmed what I knew. He was ill and needed to get well. So I started a podcast. My muffled closet became my recording studio because I wanted other people to learn what I was learning. I thought, if I don't know all this, then other people don't either. And around that time, I came across Johanna Hari's research. He said the antidote to addiction is connection. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I was like, wait, how do you connect with somebody who's lying and stealing and destroying their lives? And then one day, I had a major revelation. I was at another ski show event, and Ryan was there with his wife, sitting in the bleachers with their using friends. They didn't talk to me, and I didn't talk to them. They were emaciated, homeless, and jobless. And afterward, I went home, and I was sitting alone in my living room with my dog, Jetta. And I started crying, and Jetta comes over, and she sits right beside me, and she puts her paw right here on my arm. And for the next 15 minutes, I tell her everything that I had tried to do and how nothing had worked and what my greatest fears were. And she just licked the tears off my face, and she just stayed right there with me. And afterward, I felt so comforted. Yet, she hadn't tried to tell me what to do, interject her story, or tell me everything was going to be better, and she didn't try to fix me. And around this time, I saw this quote from David Augsburger. He's an author, and he said, being heard is so close to being loved that the two are almost indistinguishable. And I thought, yes, that's what I had felt with Jetta. And I wondered, had Ryan ever felt like that? Had I ever really listened to him? See, what happens in addiction is there's chaos, right? And everybody in the family just runs around and they play a role. And most of the time, they don't even know what their role is. But in this moment, I realized that my role had been lecture queen. Yeah, it went like this. Like there'd be some chaotic event, and we'd sit Ryan in the living room, and I'd lecture away. And when I thought he'd learned his lesson, he would apologize, and we'd embrace, and he'd get what he wanted. And I realized several things. Lecturing was ineffective, and I needed to learn how to listen. See, what Jetta did for me was gave me a safe place to just purge all my thoughts. And in doing that, I had access to all my thoughts, and I could hear my part of the problem. And I thought, yes, that's what I need, Ryan. That's what our addicted loved ones need to hear, is their part of the problem. So I decided to go out and research the science of listening because I needed to get better. And I discovered that young children are rarely formally taught how to listen, yet it can solve a problem, it can help us learn, it can help us connect, it can stop a suicide, and it can stop a war, at least in my family, between me and my husband. See, when we listen to understand, the pressure to do something just disappears. Evidence shows that an active listening approach is the most effective way to motivate a person to change. Well, after I started that podcast, I formed support groups, and thousands had joined, and I listened to what they wanted. And what they wanted more than anything was peace. So I thought, I'll create an active listening approach with the acronym PEACE. That way families could remember. I'd love to share this approach with you, but only use it if you feel safe and your loved one is coherent. The P stands for paraphrase. When your person tells you a story, you say, I think what you're saying is this. And then you ask, did I get that right? The key is to say it without sarcasm or anger. And that's really hard because our loved ones probably are going to have upside down logic. But in that moment, our role is not to agree or disagree, it's just to stay present. So let me give you an example. I'm going to say something as if I'm me and then as if I'm you. So me. I went 3 days without using. You went 3 days without using. Did I get that right? You might say, oh, Michelle, that sounded so stilted. You sound like a parrot. Well, the more you do it, the better you get. But if it's comfortable to you, say something like, thank you for sharing. The E is for emotion. We notice their emotion and we interject ours using the I statement. You sound proud of your progress. I am so happy you found success. The A is for affirm. It makes sense that you would be proud. You did it for 3 days. Now, we might think 3 days, that's nothing, right? But to them, it is something. In this moment, we're just affirming the positive. We're not thinking about the negative, kind of like when they were toddlers, right? Just ignore the negative and pay attention to the positive. C is for consent. Before we ask a question, before we give a suggestion or share a thought or pray with our person, we ask permission because it shows respect and it helps our loved one feel safer. And they might not be ready to hear what we have to say. They probably already know, right? And by the way, I asked Ryan and his wife for consent to share parts of their story today, and they said yes. Families are noticing the difference when they're asking permission before they interject their opinion. The next E is for empathy. Learning new habits is so tough. It's difficult to see a way out of this, I'm sure, but you did it for like 260,000 seconds. Well done. PEACE is an acronym that we can use in any active listening type of scenario, right? But keep in mind, you don't have to use it in the order. You don't have to paraphrase before you show empathy. You can mix it up and be genuine to who you are. It's probably not going to stop an overdose, but here's what it's doing. It's giving our loved ones a safe place to share so they can talk about their shame, their trauma, their anxieties, and that's a first step towards healing. I'd like to demonstrate something because this approach, this PEACE way, can help you no matter if you have an addicted loved one or not. So think of somebody who could benefit if you listen to understand. Close your eyes if it helps you visualize this person, but only if you want to. So who is the person sitting in front of you? They have clear eyes. They're smiling like they genuinely want to be with you. What are they wearing? Where are you? See yourself lean in without your agenda, but totally present in their agenda. You say things like, tell me more. And they share something with you that they've never shared before, something personal. You feel connected. You say, can I give you a hug? And they agree, and you embrace. What do you feel right here in your heart? When I look back on that day with Ryan when I lost hope, I think, what if I had stayed to implement the PEACE way instead of walking away? How much sooner could our relationship have improved? What about you with your person? What if you stay to affirm and show empathy? How might your relationship improve? 2 years after Ryan finally got into recovery, I said to him, do you remember that day at the ski show when you had just returned from that 30-day rehab? And he said, yeah, a little. I said, do you remember what you said? He goes, no. I said, I don't either, but I remember how you felt. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. I thought you blamed me for everything. And he said, oh, Mom, I'm so sorry. He said, when people are in active addiction, they say and do things they don't even remember. It's never intended to hurt anybody. They can't even see from somebody else's perspective. He said, but I do remember when you started listening more and lecturing less. And I thought, yes, my son is back. Today, he and his wife are over 3.5 years into recovery and have reunited with their daughters. But let me just say, I didn't do anything. They did all the work. All I did was listen. So if you know of somebody in active addiction, reach out to listen to them. Loving them, tell them you love them because that will bring you peace. Our lives are never improved by the suffering of others. It's only when we can hear the suffering at the root of all struggles that we can give love and find peace. If we don't listen to understand, we misunderstand, and that rarely leads to peace. I would like to close with this stake in the ground. I invite you to join me on my mission to empower 1 million moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and grandparents to be the base in that STRAP Act. Strong and sturdy and able to lift humanity, lift our loved ones so they feel seen, heard, and loved. Because together we can fight this epidemic. And I am leading this movement. Thank you.